Why are you eating wings with a fork right now? I don't.
Here it is.
Because they're boneless.
Because they're boneless. You eat
It
wings
doesn't
with
No,
matter.
a fork.
you
Wing.
don't.
That's
You
the way
don't.
to go. Yo, can I snag one of these?
You don't eat wings with a fork.
That's like saying you don't eat pizza with a fork and a knife.
You don't.
No.
Who eats pizza with a fork and a knife?
Not me. That's weird. That's weird.
Well, my golf game is about as good as like Michael's athletic ability. So like absolute zero.
Hey,
how's it
hey! I can play Wii tennis.
Oh, Wii
I
tennis.
can play
I'm
Wii
sure
tennis.
you
I'm
can.
good at Wii tennis. Good. What's your favorite Wii sport? Come on. What is it?
Ooh, I go Wii Sports Resort. We do the sword fighting one.
Oh, you would go to the resort.
Yes,
You would.
Yes, because I live in Rochester.
Yes, you go to Adams. So I mean, you only do the resort.
We don't settle for that. Those lower class games.
Probably the sword one. That one's
Yeah.
pretty fun.
The what one? The sword one?
Yeah.
Who let a Lake Orion kid go to the resort? I don't understand.
Where is my wing?
Hey.
Where is my wing?
Favorite Wii sport game? Go.
Put my foot up your butt.
New
Put
Super
my
Mario
foot up your
Bros.
butt. Put my.
My favorite Wii sport game is on the resort where there's the flames and you shoot each other.
Favorite
My favorite
Wii sport?
sports moment is when I was.
No, sport.
Shush.
I'd ask
My favorite moment is when I finally beat Matt in fencing.
Yes.
I like bowling and boxing. Those are my two favorites.
Bowling and boxing. What if you did them both at the same time? Boxing with the bowling ball.
It's not that close.
I mean, it would take one hit.
Happy Sunday! What's up, guys? It's Michael. Welcome to the Edge stream. We're glad you joined us tonight, or whenever you're watching this. We are not meeting anytime soon. However, just know, as soon as we possibly can, we will. Whatever that looks like, I don't know what that looks like, but stay tuned for that. We've got an event coming up on Cinco de Mayo called Taco Tuesday. Talents and creative oddities. It's a talent show displaying our students and their awesome abilities, and we want you to be a part of it. We want to see what your talents are, and it can be fun, it can be goofy, it can be serious. Doesn't really matter, but we want you to be a part of it. So let us know if you've got something you want to share. We'll be collecting videos to the end of this week, so you have until the end of this month, actually. On Thursdays, we have the Zoom Bible study, so join us every Thursday at 2 o'clock. The link will be below. We are learning how to read through the Bible, giving you some Bible study tools, and we're answering some of your questions. We answered quite a few last week, some really tough ones, and we want to be able to answer yours, so please come and join us, and if you have questions, let us know. Last week, we talked about studying the Bible and what that looks like. So here's the tool that we use, so you can do this at home, because Bible study should be easy. To study the Bible at home, here's one simple way. First of all, get a sheet of paper. Next, write 2 lines on it. Create what we call the window panes. In each quadrant, put one of these words: God, them, me, do. Then as you read a passage, which we suggest reading it once and then reading it again, answer these questions. What did I learn about God? What did I learn about them? So the people in this story, or the heart of humanity. What did I learn about me? And then take a minute and ask God, what do you want me to know? And the last one is, how can I apply this to my life? And then ask God, what do you want me to do? And that's it. Nice and simple. So today we're in the second week of our story of Joseph, and we're doing things just a little bit differently. I'm going to have some students read the Bible story, so follow along as we read the passage together. Then I asked 2 students to be willing to show you how they go through their Bible study tool, the window panes, on their own, and share that with us. So they're going to reflect on this passage from the story of Joseph. And then we're going to go into the second part of Joseph's story. And then I'm going to be interviewing the awesome Drew Collins. He is a senior, graduating senior at Adams High School. And we're going to talk through about what to do when you don't know what to do.
Now his brothers had gone to graze their father's flocks near Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, "Come, I am going to send you to them." "Very well," he replied. So he said to him, "Go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks, and bring the word back to me." Then he sent them off from the valley of Hebron. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. "Here comes that dreamer," they said to each other. "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns, and say a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams."
But when Reuben heard it, he rescued him out of their hands, saying, "Let us not take his life." And Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him, that he might rescue him out of their hand to restore him to his father." So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors that he wore, And they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it. Then Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our own flesh." And his brothers listened to him.
So when the Ishmaelites, who were Midianite traders, came by, Joseph's brothers pulled him out of the cistern and sold him to them for 20 pieces of silver, and the traders took him to Egypt.
When Reuben returned to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. He went back to his brothers and said, "The boy isn't there. Where can I turn now?" Then they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat, and dipped the robe in the blood. They took the ornate robe back to their father and said, "We found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe." He recognized it and said, "It is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourned for his son many days. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard. The Lord was with Joseph, so that he prospered, and he lived in the house with his Egyptian master.
The first time I got pulled over, I was completely shocked. I had no idea how fast I was going. When the officer came up to my car, not only did I not know how fast I was going, I realized I didn't know what I was supposed to do next. I didn't know what I was supposed to give him. I didn't know what anything looked like. I didn't know what registration or insurance papers looked like. No clue. And I was driving my parents' car, so I had no idea where they even were. And so I was panicking, trying to figure it out. And that poor officer had to sit and guide me through the process and help me figure out what I needed to do. And there was a lot of shame. There was a lot of fear. And I knew when I got home, I was busted. You ever had a moment where you didn't really know what to do? A moment where you had very little control and you didn't know what the next step was? When those moments come, what do? We looked at Joseph last week. We're diving into his story, and Joseph, we call him the dreamer because that was his gift. That was his ability. He could see things he could see glimpses into the future, and he could see different patterns, and God would speak through him to other people. And he had a bright future in front of him. Then out of nowhere, everything got put on hold. His brothers were so jealous of him because of the things that he had done and how he had said it, that they threw him into a pit that he could not get out of and he could not see out of. And then he got sold into slavery, and he had no control over what happened next. So maybe right now you see yourself in a similar place. I don't know what quarantine is like for you. Some of you are loving it. Some of you are like, whatever, it's summer break. But some of you, it doesn't feel that way. And what do you do when you find yourself in that situation where you don't know what your next step is? Because the reality is you're going to hit this all the time. For the rest of your life, you're going to find yourself in situations that either because of what you've done or because of what a decision someone else has made or just because of life circumstances. So how do you navigate that? There is a way. There is a way to navigate it. There is a way to get through it in a way that grows you and helps others and helps us become wiser in the process. So rather than walk through this on my own, I thought it would be way better to walk through this with somebody else. So I'd like to invite Drew Collins to join me, and we're going to talk about the process of finding out what to do when you don't know what to do. Cool. All right. Hey, Drew, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. A little bit tired, but how you doing, Michael?
I think I'm good. Are you sick of people telling you or asking you, how are you doing?
I could go for any conversation right now with people outside of my household, so I'm good with it.
So first question is, have you ever experienced a time or a situation that you didn't know how to respond? Like you didn't know what to do? Like maybe something like completely rocked your world or caught you off guard or made you feel uncertain or caused you a lot of hurt? I mean, sky's the limit, but have you experienced something like that?
Yeah. Well, we all go through stuff that we don't really know how to respond to pretty much every day. That's kind of just how the learning process goes. But specifically, honestly, this quarantine, when it first happened, kind of completely threw me off just because I build what I do like everything that I do, I build around community with other people, and I try to build stuff around different events with other people and different things that we're working towards. And so because it was the end of my senior year, I had like my club, we had 2 different conferences, I had a states conference for another thing. I had all of these different events set up that I could be in community with other people with. And then all of a sudden, when everything was shut off, the stuff that I've been working for 4 years towards kind of just went out the window, and I had no clue what to do after that. So as soon as quarantine happened, it was really tough because all the stuff that I've been working towards for years and years kind of just like went away, and I had no clue how to respond. Because for some people, like for some of my friends, they're big introverts. They like just chilling, staying inside. They're not very social. And so for them, this thing is like a blessing because they could just stay inside and play Animal Crossing for 24 hours a day. But for me, it was difficult because I find like my source of joy comes from bringing people together and doing stuff with other people. And so when that kind of happened, it was really tough for me.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's tough, man. I mean, think like your capstone projects, the things that you had been planning on doing and that you were already doing well, and suddenly you couldn't do them anymore, and they're not coming back. That's rough. And then on top of that, the way that we're left to interact with people completely goes against the grain of who you are. Mm-hmm. So I see absolutely how this has been really hard for you. I mean, it's been hard for everybody, but I think for people like you, there's a different kind of weight that you bear in this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Also on top of that, it's a tough situation right now too, just because I'm going into college, as I'm sure all the other seniors are. So this is the time where we kind of get to plan and figure out what we're really doing with our lives. And so one way I was doing that was I was going to a law internship, and I was interning at a law firm to kind of figure out like who I was and if I really wanted to go into the legal field or not. And then this quarantine hit, and that shut that down as well. So I can't really go through and do that. And so that's kind of hard to try to figure out like who you are, and you're trying to like go through all these different things to figure out what you're meant to do and who you're meant to be, and then it kind of gets canceled on you halfway through. So that was pretty difficult as well.
Yeah, like what kind of feelings does that bring up for you? Any way you could put some names on those feelings?
Honestly, I felt guilty because I felt guilty that I made a commitment to the firm, and I made a commitment to all of these people for these different things to my club, that I was kind of the point person of. And so when everything got canceled, like for my club, for instance, I felt guilty for all the people that I had put them through six months of working really hard for this one conference, and then all of a sudden it got canceled. And I know it wasn't my fault, but I felt guilty. I also felt really disappointed. And I know everybody feels that because there's stuff that they wish they could do that they're disappointed by. But I felt really disappointed that I couldn't go through and do the things that I wanted to do, and be the person I wanted to be necessarily. And then finally, I don't know. It's kind of hard to put an emotion on it because I don't want to pity myself, and I don't want to be like, oh, I deserve better. I should have done this and I should have done that. And I'm trying to like fight back the self-pity because it never necessarily leads to anything good, just pitying yourself and saying like, oh, if only this happened, it would have been better. Because we're each dealt our own hand of cards, and how we respond to it is really what makes us who we are. So you can either live in the moment and you could go through life with your head held high no matter what situation, or you could be filled with pity and saying, oh, this should have happened, and now that it's not happening, I'm really disappointed.
Yeah, and there's definitely a grief too, a grief for the things that you lose, because it's not like the death of a person, but there's still a death of a dream that happens, so there is a form of death that happens in this when you know that there's pieces you're not going to get back.
Yeah.
And we all respond to situations different ways, right? So what are ways that you have seen people respond when they run into difficult or confusing or painful things that catch them off guard? Like, how have you seen people respond? I mean, including yourself, but also others. Like, what are ways you've seen people respond to difficult times?
So there's really, what I've noticed is there's three primary ways that people respond. And throughout my course of time, I've responded in all three. And everybody that I've known has responded in all three at some point in time. First one is fear, like fear and just complete avoidance. So whether it's a situation of you have to confront somebody about a tough conversation, you have to go talk to a teacher, you don't know what's going on in a specific class, or even stuff like this where you don't know what's going on in the world. One way to respond to it, and I've responded to this many times in the past, is being afraid. And so you choose to completely ignore the situation, and you choose to kind of just avoid it. And I've noticed whenever I respond in that fear mindset, it's made the situation worse almost, because when you live your life by fear and when you let fear dictate your actions and how you live your life, instead of being able to confront a situation and then fix it, instead what happens is you're so afraid that you're going to hurt somebody, or you're so afraid that you're going to hurt yourself, that all of the emotions and all the stuff bottles up, and then at one point in time it'll have a huge outburst. Second one is anger. Not necessarily, and that can be either anger directed towards other people or anger directed towards yourself. For instance, if I don't do well on a test and I know that I could have studied more, then I'll blame myself and I'll get angry at myself. Or you could respond in anger towards somebody else. So say you don't do well on a test, you could go and all of a sudden get mad at a teacher and start blaming the teacher for not teaching you well enough. We're stuck inside. And so I see a lot of people, especially now in the politics realm, a lot of people are turning their anger to people that they're like, oh, this person is responsible for the reason I'm staying inside. Governor Whitmer is the reason I'm responsible for staying inside. And so they're taking their anger about a situation that everybody's facing and they're putting it on somebody else.
For sure. That's like so the anger without a direction can turn into some misplaced blaming, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
For sure.
And then the final one, that's probably the best way to respond, and I've seen a lot of people respond this way, is just being cool and collected and calm. And no, this, while it does sound really good to stay super calm and collected in issues like coronavirus, a lot of times you need a little bit of that fear and a little bit of that anger to kind of balance it out too. It's almost like the movie Inside Out, which I don't know why that movie came up in my mind, but like,
it's a good one.
Yeah, because you can't just have one emotion defining what you're doing. You can't have one thing guiding your every thought. When you're faced with a tough situation and you don't know what to do, take a step back, kind of think about it through every single perspective, and then go forward and make a decision off of that.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's really good. I think that's a great example how we do need all of those. Like, emotions are a gift from God that help us know when things are wrong, or help us avoid danger, and keep living. I mean, those are they're there for a reason, you know, so they're not all negative, but I think you're right. I wonder if that is more closely, like, allowing them all to have their place. I wonder if that's more closely to what self-control looks like, right?
Yeah.
Because are you really experiencing or exhibiting self-control if you are only living in in the anger quadrant?
Mm-hmm.
Are you really living in self-control if you're only listening to fear? Or if you're just seeking only peace without allowing yourself to grow. So you've talked a little bit about how you respond. I want to kind of skip down to the last couple of questions. So when we find ourselves in tough situations, sometimes our first instinct can be to blame God. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because a lot of times in situations where we don't know what's going on, people will turn to the Creator in order for to say, like, why are you letting these bad things happen? You're supposed to be this all-powerful God who is capable of doing anything. Why would you let bad things happen? And I think it's a lot of that blame blame complex, because we don't want we don't want to feel responsible for what's going on in our lives. So we'll turn to God and we'll say, God, why did you do this? And there's a lot of times that there's situations where we don't have control over. We don't have control over coronavirus. And so we'll take a look and we'll say, God, why are you doing this to people? What are you... And we'll take our mentality and we'll only focus it on the negative of the situation. And a lot of times there's situations that are very negative that we'll look and we'll be like, God, why are you doing this? And I think the best thing we can do in that situation is kind of flip our view and look at the positive of the situation. Because, there's a lot of bad that's going on right now. And one thing that Dave Wilson said, and that kind of always is going through my mind, is pain is our platform to perform. Our pain and our anguish and the stuff that we go through is what we can use to connect to other people. So the bad stuff that we go through in our life, at the time, we may look at it and be like, God, why would you do this to us? Or why would you do this to me? Why would you make me go through this breakup? Why would you make my loved one die? Why would you go through and take my senior year and completely throw it out the window? But God has a bigger plan for all of us. And we don't know if this corona thing could be building your relationship with your family. It could be used 5 years down the road from now to spark up a conversation that brings you in closer friendship with somebody that you would have never known before. It's all about the things that it's seeing the bigger picture and seeing the pain and the struggles that we're going through now as the opportunity that they can bring in the future, in order to kind of share your story. Because all of us are going to go through pain. All of us are going to go through times that we look to God and we say, God, why are you doing this? I don't understand the bigger picture right now. And I think the only thing we can do in that situation is just know that God has a greater plan for us, and that he's going to use us and he's going to use our story in order to make sure that we're going to be good in the future, and in order to make sure that we're going to be successful in the future. So
dude, this is great. Is great. Last question. What do you think community plays into this kind of situation where you hit something difficult and don't know what to do?
I think community is everything, because right now is the time when, for instance, that my bond with my neighbors has been stronger than it's ever been in the past. Right next door to us, we have our neighbors. They're Scruggs. They go to church. Honestly, I'm not sure Emerson might be on this stream tonight, but
she might.
Yeah, she might be. So our Scruggs, they're great neighbors, and one of their kids has an immune deficiency, and so we've been going.
Ryer.
Yeah, Ryer. Love the kid. He's a super great kid if you haven't met him. But so we've been going, and whenever we've been picking up groceries, we don't want them to go to the grocery store, and so we'll go and pick up groceries for them. And then, like, all of our neighbors, it's crazy to see every time I walk down the street, all of our neighbors are doing things for each other. They're going on walks, staying on the opposite side of the street and going for walks together. They're mowing each other's lawns. They're doing all these amazing things, and they're taking care of each other, just like Jesus told us to do. We're in a community, we're going through a tough time, but we're going through the tough time together. And going through tough times together is how you build relationships and how you truly see who people are and how you truly connect with people. Because in the great times and in the times where there's really no struggle, you don't form those deep connections. You might get a surface level relationship, but it's when you truly go through a tough time with someone else and you get through it on the other side, that's when you build the strongest relationships.
Cool. Well, Drew, thank you for taking time out of your Sunday and for getting up before noon. Really appreciate it.
I know. It's crazy. I don't like it.
But, all right, dude. Hey, great job. This is awesome.
Thank you so much, Michael.
No matter how much we prepare, no matter how much we plan, we're still going to be hit by things that are out of our control. Things that stop our plans from coming to fruition. Things that make life pause. Right now, we're in the middle of a big pause that wasn't caused by anybody. Sometimes we'll be hit by a pause that's created by a decision we made or a decision that others made. But sometimes it seems like nobody caused it. But regardless of the cause, There is something that we can do when we feel like there's nothing we can do. And when we're not sure what to do, there is one baseline truth below it all, and that is God is with us. When it feels like there's nothing we can do, when it seems like there's nothing we can do, we can still know that God is with us. And you're probably like, great, cool, wow, how? Well, that's what I want to talk to you today about. There are ways to do this, ways to practice this. It's like flexing a muscle. It's like flexing a muscle we might not use very much. We have to build it up. So here are 5 ways you can practice this now so that you are super prepared for it the next time things hit. And so here's 5 ways. There's many ways you can do it, but I'm going to talk about 5 quick ways. First of all, practice active remembering. What does that mean? That means taking time to actually remember how God has cared for you in the past. You can journal, you can write it out, you can blog it, you can draw it, you can make a PowerPoint. I don't care. But however, take some time and remember how God has been with you in the past. Because remembering how God has been with you in the past will help you remember that God is with you now and he will be with you in the future. Okay? So practice active remembering. Look for ways God has moved. Second, people. Bring people in. We're not supposed to do this alone. You're not supposed to do this alone. So what that you're in quarantine? Bring other people in. There are people in your lives right now that God has moved in their life. Ask them how he's moved in their life. Ask your parents how God has moved in their life. They probably would be very grateful that you asked them. Or ask your friends. Ask your small group leader. Third one, pour out. You see, one of the best ways we can see Jesus is to be Jesus. So find a way to serve someone else. Still care for yourself, but also find a way to care for other people, to meet other people's needs. And fourth way, physical reminders. There's a lot of different ways to do this. This is why some people wear crosses. This is why some people carry around rosaries. This is why some people put things on their walls and pictures of Jesus, because they're physical reminders. So that's another way you can do it. And I think the last one is this. It's to pull from the future. To do what Joseph does in dream. Who dreams in the middle of chaos? I don't know. Who dares to dream about a future in the middle of sadness? Who dares to do that? People who know that God is going to do something better. So those are 5 simple ways that you can actively remember what God is doing. Because even when it feels like there's nothing you can do, even when you don't know what to do, begin with the knowledge that God is with you. And if you can start there, then you can figure out what to do next. So join us in our Zoom chats right now after this, 5:30. Link is below. You know the password, and if you don't, ask us. Thanks for joining us. We will see you later.